Everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, intuitive astrologer, Reiki master, and empowerment coach. And I'm here today to talk about this coming week's new moon in Cancer on June 28th, 2022 at 7:51 p.m. The new moon cycle, which happens every month, is where the sun and the moon come together to create new life. It is the darkest phase of the moon. It is when we are most unable to see with our eyes and have to feel or get to feel with our heart, our intuition, and our inner knowing. The sign of Cancer ultimately represents our inner knowing, our self-nurturing. It represents our home, our country. It represents the things that we hold dear, home and hearth. And so we're seeing this new moon in Cancer. The chart of the day, this new moon will actually be happening in the 7th house of partnerships. It's also the house of diplomacy, harmony, peace, cooperation. And so I think this is very powerful as it's the beginning of a 6-month cycle that will culminate in this during the Capricorn season when we see the full moon in Cancer then. This moon is making an exact square to Jupiter in the 4th house of Aries. This is very powerful for me. Because Jupiter represents our beliefs, our religious beliefs, our philosophical beliefs. It represents the judicial system, judges. It represents expansion and wealth. And having this friction, this tense conversation with the new moon is really asking all of us on a human level to dig deeper into our belief system. And is it in cooperation and in harmony with our wants and our desires? And in the sign of Cancer, are those beliefs nurturing us to live happier lives, to live more authentically? And I think this is super important because this Jupiter is also making a very favorable aspect to Venus in Gemini at 7 degrees. So this is an opportunity for us to kind of look and say, wow, how do I feel about who I am, what I'm producing in the world, the way I make my money? If we think about the current chart with this new moon being in the 7th house makes Venus in the 6th house of work and health. So I think this is a very important dynamic for us to start to sow the seeds of what is most authentic to our heart, to ask ourselves, are we nurturing ourselves? Are we spending our time in ways that is authentic to a deeper truth of ourselves? Because on the very same day that we will have this new moon, Neptune, the planet that rules fantasy and illusion and spirituality, a deep connection to the ancestral part of myself, is going retrograde until December. Neptune is a very slow-moving planet, so this is not just a personal planet individually, but how we deal with things on a collective. So what we're going to see over the next 6 months is a lot of illusion coming up. We're going to be swimming through some very murky waters. If we think about the new moon in Cancer, that is ruled by water. Neptune rules Pisces, which is naturally a water sign. So we're going to start to really dig deeper as a collective, as the souls that have incarnated on this planet at this time to truly, what I believe is the purpose of life is to walk through the journey, is to be aware of each step that we take and put out an intention and to use our heart in a stronger way than we use our eyes. I can't help but when I think about as I say that, I can't help but think about oftentimes when an animal is first born, the eyes are not open. they first deal with smell. And so, or with hearing. So I feel like this is a real opportunity to go into this Cancerian energy to differentiate between what is fear-based intuition and what is faith-based intuition, and then start to examine how we put an intention towards what it is we want to experience, and where are we as we allow for the ebb and the flow. I did a video recently on the 12 universal laws, and one of those laws is the law of inspired action. And so this plays very much into the idea of, as I go into this square between Jupiter at 7 degrees Aries, and then having it hit this new moon, I'm going to be planting seeds in a way that I may, and I say I, but I mean we as a collective, may realize that a lot of our beliefs are based on things that we inherited or things that we assume because of our either geographical location, our ethnic background, and are those beliefs aligned to your own evolution? Are they still current, or have they themselves maybe expired? Because I believe that as the Cancerian energy is dominant, this is about being a little bit protective of yourself, feeling nurturing, trusting that your intuition is leading you towards your happiness and towards more connection. Cancer very much wants to feel connected to others and wants to feel a connection back. And sometimes when you're purporting a nurturing energy, the people receiving it don't realize that you yourself also need a nurturing energy. So I think it's important to realize this and to be able to express it in a way that starts to create an even exchange of energy. We don't want to overgive in hopes that we will receive, because that's a recipe for resentment. On the same day that we have the new moon and Neptune going retrograde, we have Mars at 25 degrees Aries, making a trine aspect to Saturn retrograde in Aquarius. And I have contemplated these two planets quite a bit, how they can work cooperatively with one another. Because Mars wants to take action, and Saturn by nature slows things down. And I feel like this is really sort of like Saturn being the mentor and Mars being the young buck. And with this sextile between them, I think this is an opportunity for them to come into alignment. And rather than trying to take action based on a knee-jerk square from Jupiter to the new moon, but slowing down a bit and saying, you know what? It's not about taking action. It's how I take that action. It's not what I say per se, but how I say it. And am I opening a space for others to receive what I have to put out there? Because I feel like if we really think about when we go against something we don't believe in, or when we fight against drugs, or we fight against any imbalance, inadvertently we are perpetrating the same vibration as what it is we're fighting against. So we get to learn how to observe these energies that appear challenging, and rather than fighting against them, it's more about figuring out how to work with them to achieve the outcome that we want, to find the divinity within the disruption, to see the wisdom in this fork of the road. We cannot rewrite or balance our karma, for lack of a better term. I believe karma is choice, unless we walk through the same situation, issue, storm, or dynamic. So I think this is where Mars and Saturn really get to start to take strategic action, to take action in a way that is the peaceful warrior. It's not backing down, and it's not giving up my perception. It's more about trying to inspire others versus making them wrong in order for me to be right. On the same day at Mars is 25 degrees Aries, it is going to be making a square to Pluto in Capricorn, which we've been seeing Pluto's influence quite a bit. And then Neptune is making a sextile to Pluto. So Mars and Pluto both rule Scorpio. So to me, they are cooperative by nature. And yet in this moment, they're having an argument. This square is a friction. It's a tension. It feels a lot to me like sandpaper. It doesn't feel good. It creates some heat, but ultimately it will smooth the surface. So I think, again, this is where Aries or Mars in Aries at the 25th degree, which is the Taurus degree, is asking us, no, I'm sorry, that's the Aries degree. Excuse me. How are we warring? Because there will always be disagreement and there will always be war. But are we warring constructively? Are we warring in a way that is actually trying to create a win-win? I don't believe it's about trying to exterminate something or to overcome something or to defeat something, as much as me being able to see as a human through the eyes of my soul that disruption, that quote unquote dark moment that Pluto may be fostering is giving me an opportunity to make a choice of a higher vibration. Because with that, now we see Neptune at 25 degrees Pisces making a sextile to Pluto. This gives me an opportunity to really pick up the spiritual dynamics of what Neptune has to offer. Neptune ruling the 12th house, it rules our ancestors. It to me is the house where it's the last stage of me in this human body before I'm going back into the collective, into where my soul knows on a very easy level what all this disruption means. When we're in the human body, the disruption is assaulting. The disruption is upsetting and unpleasant. But from soul's perception, and let me go back to the 12 universal laws, everything is neutral, and it is our perception of it that assigns its value, lack of value, it's good or it's bad. So as we see all these dynamics, where Jupiter is making a favorable aspect to Venus and yet a square to the new moon. So this could reflect a real tension within yourself to stand up for your value or to acknowledge your value and then align to that value first with your heart and then allow for inspired action to take you to the next step. And this is an opportunity for you to see the sextile between Mars and Saturn and start to see them working together. Oftentimes in the natal chart, when I see Saturn and Mars together, I feel as if the human is struggling with taking action in a definitive way. And when the soul chooses a natal chart, which it does, this is one of the soul's lessons, of the soul's opportunities, is to see how Saturn will reward through the hard work and through really soldiering through the unpleasant moment to find the pearl, to find the reward, to find the benefit at the end of the day. So I think all of these things are super important. And they are going to be this sixth, it's funny when I talk about a new moon, we feel it most 3 days before and 3 days after. The moon rules the waters, the moon rules our emotional body. And we know from the tides, we can see how it has such an effect on everything. So while we're in this sort of dark moment of planting seeds for what will nurture us, what will make us feel valuable, what will put me in alignment with my wants and my desires so that I can start to feel the benefit in my wallet and in my own sense of Venus ruling money and self-worth, and really putting some spit and polish on what does that look like for me. Because as we age, and God knows I'm aging now, my wants and desires have changed. I don't don't go out and party or go to clubs the way I used to. And so I realized that as I've aged, I enjoy more savory conversations. I enjoy an ease. I'm not as much involved in drama, or at least I don't want to be involved in drama. So as you give life, that your beliefs will evolve along with the rest of you. This is a really great time to put in a little bit of intention and to really sit down and say, what do I want to be experiencing by the end of this year? Because we have Neptune is retrograde, Saturn is retrograde, Pluto is retrograde, and these planets are going to move forward again as we get to this pivotal end of the year. And what I believe 2022 is all about is coming in alignment and cooperation with the human experience and the soul's intention for why it came here at this time to experience a physical dynamic. And again, I want to kind of emphasize that this new moon is going to be in the 7th house of Cancer on the current chart, not my natal chart or your natal chart, but the chart of the day. So this is, again, how do I create harmony, diplomacy, and kind of looking at things in a way that if I want to be heard, am I listening? If I want to express my voice, am I allowing others to express theirs? Am I a perpetrator of harmony, or am I a perpetrator of disruption? These are the things I think we get to consider. Oftentimes, people look at the 7th house and they go directly to a marriage partner. More and more, we are seeing that people are choosing not to marry. They're choosing not to have that experience. So what else does that 7th house mean? Cooperation with ourselves, in contract with ourselves, so that we can then go into the physical experience, inviting others to have that same dynamic. And then we have a lot of people that are primarily happy. And when they run up against these challenges, they're in the lane that is towards their alignment of their desires. So this becomes an empowerment exercise versus something that's pulling us under and getting in our way. So let's go. I'm going to start the readings now. I'm going to start with Cancer. This is a new thing I'm doing. I started it with the Gemini season. And I'm going to do all the readings for the month of during Cancer season, starting with Cancer and ending with Gemini. When we go into the Leo season, I'll start with Leo, etc. This is my way of perpetrating my 7th house Libra sun. And for my Cancers, this is going to be in your 1st house of self. Now, this is very important because this is going to be about you, Cancer. This is going to be not about your family, although your family will be important, but how are you allowing yourself to feel nurtured? How are you allowing yourself to feel healed and balanced? How are you in alignment and in cooperation with your wants and desires? The 4th house is a very patriotic house. Cancer naturally rules it. It rules. We talk about Taurus ruling land, but so does Cancer. It, as I said, being a patriotic sign, it's going to rule your home country. So as you walk through this next week and you're setting an intention for what you want to experience within this next 6 months and how you want to, I almost want to say, Cancer, this is an opportunity for you to set an intention to experience a new version of yourself, and one that is more aligned to the truth of who you are, not just the nurture of others, but that intuitive part of you that rules the ocean, that knows that there is a rhythm to the tides. There is a rhythm to everything. So as I give life to that rhythm, I don't need to feel vulnerable to when it feels challenging. So let's see what Spirit has to say for you. Oops. And how you will benefit from giving yourself the privilege of putting yourself first at this time. Because as you nurture and you align yourself, you are so much better equipped to help others learn how to nurture themselves. And that's the ultimate in nurturing, is to empower others to be their best selves. Okay, Cancer, our first angel is Adriana. The second is Sonia. The third is Serena. And the final is Oceana. If there was an angel that represented Cancer for me, it would be Oceana, because she's swimming up through the ocean towards her soul's destiny, and she's allowing the stars and her heart to guide herself. So let's see. Adriana is being joined by the Bee card. Sonia is being joined by the Disruption card. Serena is being joined by the Deer. And Oceana is being joined by the High Priestess. The Bee energy is always, to me, about my being energy. What do I believe? Where am I standing in that belief? And do I align with my own victory within that? Now, we talked earlier about the square between the new moon and Jupiter representing beliefs. I really want to emphasize for my Cancers that there may be a belief that you've had for years and years and years, but I don't know if it's still in play. It may have expired. It may be something that you've been carrying forward into your life that is no longer necessary, because Adriana is leading you towards the answers to your prayers. And this, to me, is part of this belief system represented by the Bee. And if for some reason, let's just say, because this now, the current chart at the time of the new moon, Cancer will be the 7th house of partnerships. And if you are still seeking a partnership, an intimate partnership, or if you are looking to align with a business partner, because that's also represented by the 7th house, or you're in a current partnership, what is your belief about that? And are you willing to be fluid in some ways and allow your belief to evolve as spirit leads you to more, I want to say more intense, because that square feels rather intense to me, situations, but they're illuminating. We see Adriana holding a torch, lighting the way as we ascend to what is our truth. Now, we see in the opportunity or the obstacle, Sonia, which represents my team of guides and angels that watch over me. And then we see the Disruption card. And sometimes what we don't realize is, in order to balance something, we need to disrupt the energy that is in play. And there is a wisdom and a divinity to that disruption. And so during the disruption, Spirit is asking Cancer to be gentle and diplomatic with themselves as they adopt a serenity, a trust in a bigger picture of things. I can't help but think to myself, there are so many times throughout history when man has perpetrated imbalances and they have become habits that nobody thinks about. And frankly, during the time of slavery, I don't know how many people really contemplated slavery in their everyday activities. I was not alive then that I'm aware of, but I can imagine that people became used to certain things. And in order for things to be balanced, and for those people that were being oppressed and treated so poorly, we needed to disrupt the habit that was happening. So I believe this is potentially disrupting a habit of imbalance, a habit of lack of harmony, a belief system that no longer works. Because now for my Cancers, this is a time for you really to swim up through your emotional body, past your fears, and start to ask your fears what they want to remind you of. How powerful you are. The whale always represents a soul's destiny for me. And the High Priestess is the most intuitive of all energies. She sits in this feminine energy and she knows how to trust. The moon is right on her third eye. I don't know if you can see it. She knows how to trust an intuition beyond the chirping of everyday life. So for my Cancers, at this new moon, for you to set an intention to really look at your belief system. And if you're telling the story over and over again that you don't win, does that story serve you? And even if all evidence, all experience, all situations appear that you're not winning, is it still have to be true? Or can you start to tell a new story, at least to yourself? I may not have won before, but I'm about to win now. I may not have been in that relationship before, but I'm about to be in that relationship now. Whatever it is you want to experience, including financial security, because Serena does represent money, but money comes through serenity. Fear blocks abundance. All right, let's go on to our Leos. This is going to be in your 12th house. Cancer is your 12th house. Again, the 12th house is a very spiritual house, but it can be a house where Leo inadvertently does not see themselves as important enough to nurture. I always think of the 12th house is what's sitting behind me as I face this way, moving forward through the wheel. So this is an opportunity to really go into meditation, to use the idea that your 12th house is naturally Cancer, to maybe rest, maybe even take a nap, allow yourself to listen to some beautiful music, anything that brings a serenity and a feeling of nurturing. And if indeed, for some reason, your day is so hectic that you say to yourself, I don't have time to take care of myself, that's something you get to think about, because that's a ripple effect. And those around you, you will inadvertently be teaching them that self-care is not as important as whatever's on my to-do list. So let's see what Spirit has to say for you. Skateboarder just showed up outside the window and he's about to do a bunch of jumps off the stairs. So if you hear a big crunch, that's the skateboarder. God bless my life. Okay, ooh, Leo, let's see what's going on here. Our first angel is Francesca. The second is Layla. The third is Omega. And the final is Maya. One of the challenges that Leo has, as it rules the heart and it rules the spine, but mostly the heart. Sometimes Leo has trouble really trusting their heart. They get a little bit, being naturally ruling the 5th house of performers, without an audience, you don't know if what you've created is valuable. Most of us don't look at our own opinion as being important enough. So there could potentially be something where you're learning how self-care actually creates more people being able to care for you, and therefore making your heart feel stronger. Francesca's being joined by the raven. Layla's being joined by the serpent. Omega's being joined by Merlin, and Maya's being joined by the Truth card. Okay, so the raven says that it's a time of magic, synchronistic events, and of, what's that final word? Oh, coincidence. And I want to offer this. Francesca says, what do you visualize right now? Negativity will block your progress. I think that having this new moon in your 12th house, you've done all the hard work of looking through your life. You've picked the bones clean. And now the magic comes as being able to fly off that skull and really pay attention to how often am I telling the old story versus telling the new story. Because in your opportunity or your obstacle is to set an intention. This is Layla. And speak to spirit, speak to the divine universe, and allow yourself to truly shed this skin to see, am I participating in my own unhappiness because I keep telling the old story over and over again? And it isn't because the old story isn't true, but is it true today? Because Leo, I really think it's important for you to be kind of present, because Spirit is saying that you have alchemy and justice and balance coming. Alchemy is material success in some way, feeling it in the material world, and Omega is offering you victory. But if you stay too fixed in your story of yesteryear, you're inadvertently going to be recreating that story. The players may change, but the dynamics will remain the same. So here you go. Spirit is teaching you about your deeper truth. And this is what I want to offer you. Your deeper truth is that, or what I believe is the deepest of truths, is that we all have a point of attraction. It is a universal law. And as we recognize, what is my point of attraction? Am I a perpetrator in that attraction? Am I a victim of that attraction? Or am I a hero in that attraction? Who do I want to be and what do I want to play? Because oftentimes we will default to the victim of a situation. And I think for Leo, it's time to kind of fly again off of that old story. You know, this guy's ready to be buried already. He's done. And now is really an opportunity for a new skin, for an understanding and an alignment to a truer intention. And that intention offers you physical experiences of victory. But you've got to be, and I hate to say it this way, but it's true, aligned to the deeper truth of, are you participating in your own unhappiness? Again, this is a nurturing moon. Cancer is the sign of ultimate nurturing. And if we're not nurturing ourselves, then we really cannot nurture anyone else. What happens is a feeling of obligation inadvertently comes across. And so the person on the other side who we think we're being so wonderful to might not feel it. They may feel like they have to give back to you or they have to reciprocate in some way. And what I believe Leo wants is for the audience to choose to be there, not to be trapped there. So as you, in this new moon, plant the seeds for your own heart, and am I willing to start to tell a new story? When I start to go down the road of, oh, this always happens to me, that's your ticket. Why does it always happen to you? Where is your thought? Where is your focus? Because if something is always happening to you, then you are a common denominator. And this is not to put blame anywhere. It's just to allow for an awareness. And that awareness gives us the magic to see that when we're focused on something that doesn't work for us, we inadvertently are creating more of what doesn't work for us. All right, let's go on to our Virgos. This is going to be in your 11th house of friends, networks, social media, your hopes and your dreams. The 11th house is a very philanthropic house for me. I know most people think of that as the 9th house, but with the humanitarian focus of making the world a better place through innovation, through science, through a larger awareness of the collective. So now we see this new moon in Cancer in your 11th house at the 7th degree of cooperation and harmony. In our country, my country, the United States, they just overturned a very controversial, God, I can't even think of the word, Roe versus Wade. And this may inflame many people. And I'm sure if I was still of childbearing years, it would inflame me as well. But I want to offer this because this stoking of oh my goodness, so much disruption. The United States has seen a lot of mass shootings, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration. Many astrologers are talking about the Pluto return for the United States. And I bring all this up because as a Virgo, you rule health. Now we put this new moon in the house of the collective. How can you contribute to the health of the collective? I think this is about Virgo giving themselves an opportunity to plant the seeds for cooperation, for harmony, and to kind of look at, again, this idea that disruption is giving the collective an opportunity to make a new choice. And I think oftentimes the choice has nothing to do with the situation, but will I villainize you for your choice? The United States was built on the idea that everybody got to have a choice whether other people agreed with it or not. And as we've been ticking along with time, it feels like that's become a bit of a backseat concept. And we have tended to villainize each other for our choices. And all the while, as individuals, really wanting to feel accepted for our choices. So Virgo, our first angel is Chantal. She just flew out of the deck. The second is Serafina. The third is Bridget. And the final is Isabella. Well, let's see what this is. Chantal represents romance. Let's see if this is coming to you individually or if this is about loving the collective. Nurturing the collective by holding space for the health and well-being of the collective. Chantal is being joined by the mystery card. Serafina is being joined by the novice. Bridget is being joined by the raven. And Isabella is being joined by the king. I really don't think this is a personal thing. I think this is much bigger. Again, Cancer is your 11th house. I see Chantal as a resurgence of choosing love. I feel really that there are going to be so many of us that become so frustrated and maybe even incensed. This is the square between the new moon and Pluto over the beliefs of others that we're going to sort of explode. And I don't mean it in a way where we explode. Maybe I should use implode, because I feel when I look at this that the first thing I'm going to do is I need to choose love. I need to choose to look at everybody, whether I agree with them or not, and start to see the privilege and the joy and the nurturing of choice. Because I believe overall, as a collective, we want to start to experience more happiness. And I believe that a lot of this disruption is offering us a new beginning to be who we want to be. This is Pride Month. And I've never been a person who was very judgy that way. I always kind of like, do your thing. It's really doesn't have any effect on me. But there's a lot of things right now where people are expressing themselves in ways that they never have before. And through this, we're also seeing people align to it and applauding that expression. So I think that's what Virgo may be starting to plant the seeds for, is the health of the collective to stand in a more balanced way and allow us to have the privilege of the journey of discovery, the journey of creation. You know what? Sometimes when I see somebody who's very tatted up, I think that they think their body is an art piece, not just tattoos. So I myself have found myself looking at things and trying to seek a deeper perception of things and see people expressing themselves as the souls that live within the human shell. Because I really believe that as each one of us chooses to see things through love, we bring the vibration of this planet up and we learn how to really look deeper into the magic of things. And so we foster an opportunity for more happiness for everyone. Bridget says, look deeper. And this is like in the angel's advice, there's magic afoot. I know it doesn't seem like it right now. I mean, we're looking at things and we're seeing war in other countries and we're seeing crimes against children. And yet at the same time, these souls that have chosen to be part of those experiences are living in the most Cancerian energy. They're nurturing us through our observation of their challenges. And it's up to us to start to make new choices to align to a bigger version of what justice and fairness is. And there's Isabella saying, yes, the timing is right. And new happiness awaits as we make choices through love. So I don't think this is a coincidence that this new moon is making a square to the planet of beliefs, the planet of expansion, the planet of philanthropy. I hope I said that right. philanthropic endeavors, the idea that we can judiciously move beyond what has been into a new place. We haven't talked about it in a while, but Uranus and Saturn are about to have their final square. As Saturn goes retrograde and gets closer and closer to that 18th degree, we're going to see this old structure, Saturn and Uranus, liberation, naturally ruling the 11th house, which they both do actually, coming together. So Virgo, for this new moon, I think what Spirit is offering you is that as you look at things through the eyes of love, as you say, is my opinion seeing the best in that person? Or is my opinion or my belief seeing the best in that situation? And again, I can't help but say sometimes something that feels unpleasant or disruptive is actually bringing in balance. And the initial impact of that doesn't feel good, but in the long run, it will actually serve a greater purpose, and more people will feel happy and feel like they get to be themselves. All right, let's go to our Libras. This is in your 10th house. That's Libra rising, by the way. All these are based on rising. I didn't say that at the beginning. I should have, but I think you guys are used to me by now. Okay. Libra, 10th house is your career, the public eye, how people will see you. And Cancer obviously is a nurturing sign. So let's see what new seeds will be planted for you during this time. All right. Our first angel is Sonia. The second is Celeste. The third is Bethany. And the final is Oceana. As I'm shuffling the cards, I can't help but get this thought in my head. Libra, it rules the 7th house naturally. In the chart of the day for this new moon, it will be the 7th house. And I feel as if this is really an opportunity for Libra to stand in 10th house is the public eye, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm in the public eye. It's the community, the people that are around you, your neighborhoods. You can be in the public eye and be very prominent without being prominent to the whole nation. I recently watched Family Dinner, and there was a family who was very prominent in their town for their restaurant and for the events they held at the restaurant, but the rest of us would not know who they are. And I'm saying this because Libra, I feel like Spirit is really giving you an opportunity to represent what it is that you want to experience on the planet. So we have Sonia, which represents your team of heavenly hosts that are watching over you. And then we see the burden card. You know, Libra being the natural sign for harmony and balance and cooperation, witnessing the events going out around the world, the things that are happening can be very, very disheartening. But, you know, without that, again, we cannot have a shift because Celeste is here. Celeste for me represents a shift in the way I'm thinking. We know we have a square between the new moon and Jupiter, but we also have a sextile with Venus. Venus is your ruling planet. So this gives you an opportunity to see wisdom and to be able to shift and to start to tell a new story and to understand that the history, the bear represents history. If I never shift away from what has been, I will not experience what can be, because this is the love card and Bethany is a card of self-care. And I'm a big, big fan of self-care when it comes to being able to care for others. One of the challenging sides of not only the new moon in Cancer, but the Libra energy is that it's so giving to others that when people don't give back, there's a bit of resentment that can be built up. And that's why sometimes I'll say that we're over giving. Because if we don't give to ourselves, if we don't nurture ourselves, then we look outside of ourselves to see where the nurturing is coming from. And oftentimes that's a slippery slope. So as you see the world being kind of crazy, and you call upon your guides and your angels to help shift you from what has been and to start telling a new story, and to realize that by loving yourself, you really are loving others. And I want to say this in a way that is, again, where I sort of have to dig a little bit deeper into what does that really look like. There may be ways that you have taken care of yourself, Libra, that really are kind of based on an old story, because Oceana is asking you to dig. This is the second time we've seen this very combination. And the first time, I believe it was with Cancer. So we have Oceana asking you to dig deeper into your emotional body if you're swimming up towards what your soul really wants to experience. And this is the High Priestess, which is just kind of doubling down on that whole idea, because this is an opportunity for you to see that without sometimes the disruption and the burden of a challenge, we can't get to the balance of that challenge. You know, I can't help but go back to the idea that throughout history, there have been nations that have tried to conquer other nations, or people that tried to conquer other people. And all they really did was enslave us to old concepts of have and have not. And so to me now, this is an opportunity for us to ascend into the Aquarian age that says it's time to create the win-win. When I win, you win. When you win, I win. And so if we can keep our sight up there in that higher vibration, we can see the wisdom of these days we're walking through. And rather than giving into the anger that it can foster, a square is not an easy energy. So as we see this happening, and then we see these other astrological dynamics, Neptune going retrograde is going to bring up illusion and maybe even some conspiracies and lies that have been told to us. And as we become warriors against the lies, we inadvertently mirror that energy. So what we need to do, or what we get to do, is really seek the wisdom. So Libra, I think this new moon is really going to plant the seeds for you to be seen by the people in your community, the people in your life, wherever you have an opportunity to be in the public eye. And as you are the perpetrator of harmony, as you're the perpetrator of balance, rather than pointing a finger at blame, I feel like you're going to feel more connected to yourself and feel more of an opportunity to feel the cooperation and the harmony that Libra naturally rules. All right, let's go on to our Scorpios. This is going to be in your 9th house, which rules foreign travel, belief, I don't know why I can't get those two words out, philosophy and philanthropy. Let's see where this is taking you. Again, Cancer will be your 9th house, and I'm going rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. So when we see this Scorpio having the idea that your 9th house is Cancer, we're looking at the idea that the 9th house is naturally ruled by Jupiter, and there is a square to Jupiter in Aries from Cancer. This is going to give you an opportunity to dig deep into what you believe. Let's see what Spirit has to say. Our first angel is Fiona. The second is Sonia. The third is Omega. And the final is Astera. I always think of Scorpio as one of the most savory, rich signs. And when it comes to intimacy and connection, Scorpio likes to know you from the inside out. And that can be a beautiful thing. There's nothing really superficial about Scorpio. So let's see, now that you've asked God and the angels for help, they're helping you with trust. And I want to offer it this way. I don't think it's the trust outside of yourself. I think it's that trust in spirit and the very epiphany we see here. See this either as an epiphany or an inspiration. And then we have Sonia, your team of loved ones, being joined by the movement card. We have Omega being joined by the horse, which to me very much rules the Sagittarian energy, the 9th house energy. This is an animal that is extremely intuitive. And then we see Omega offering a magical version in the form of victory. And finally, we see Astera and the Joy card. So this is what I want to offer. Scorpio, having this new moon in Cancer be in your 9th house is going to give you an opportunity to really look at your belief system. And if the beliefs that you have been operating on are actually working for you, or if they have expired, or they're just straight up not working for you and it's time to rewrite them. Because I believe that now that you've asked God and the angels for help, you're going to be inspired. And that inspiration is going to have you trust a deeper knowing within yourself, a more intuitive place. Cancer is a very intuitive sign. And I truly believe that every human is inherently intuitive and energetic. And the human experience and the density of this body dumbs that down, along with the expectations of our community and those around us. So now, as you connect with your team of guides and angels, there's actually movement, physical movement within your life that makes you feel a sense of victory and to trust moving in a new direction. Again, we see the 9th house is going to rule foreign movement, like moving from one country to another country or someplace that feels completely different. And that difference may be a physical move, but it feels very much like an internal move of trusting that intuition, and not from a dark Plutonian place, but from the transformed Plutonian place, the phoenix rising from the ashes. Because Astera is saying to reach for the stars with your dreams and desires and not to compromise. And there's the Joy card. And we see the Joy card as a 37 that's going very nicely with our 47, which is again emphasizing the idea of the ones. 47 reduces down to an 11. The 37 reduces down to a 10. This whole idea that your belief system is being renovated. It doesn't mean you have to throw any of your beliefs out, but are they current? I personally have, I love you, gotta go belief. I've had it since I can remember. I got it from my father. He'd always have something better to do. And he would say, oh, well, I love you, I gotta go. I'll be back. I love you, gotta go. But he never really spent much time one-on-one with me. And when he did, I always felt like it was forced. And while that is not a current belief, my father's not even alive anymore. I still carry that belief with me somewhere in my cellular body. So as I have an awareness of that, I can now ask God and the angels for help relieving of that burden and starting to trust a new version as I align mentally to that. And part of that movement is being able to really connect with my team about how I feel about things. Do I feel victorious? Because it's time to move in that direction, Scorpio. Because you deserve to feel joy, you deserve to feel love. And if you never focus on that joy and love, it's going to be hard for spirit to bring it in. We are, as individuals, a point of attraction. We are a point of attraction from the time we're born, if not beforehand, because our soul is eternal. And our soul chooses this experience, chooses its parents, its geographical location, the color of its skin, because it comes in with an intention. And not every intention is to change the world. Sometimes the intention is just to actually live a joyous life, because so few humans do that. So look and see where your beliefs have maybe expired and allow yourself to move past those or to integrate a new belief. Okay, let's go on to our Sagittariuses. This is going to be in your 8th house of transformation. And as I say that, I can't help but think that the United States is a Sagittarius rising and is currently experiencing quite an opposition to its Cancerian energy. Sagittarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Did I just say Sagittarius? Hope I did. I'm in 2 places at once right now, my brain. Okay. Sagittarius, our first angel is Rosetta. The second is Bridget. The third is Archangel Gabriel, and the final is Vanessa. I couldn't help when I said I was in two places. It's because the United States is a Sagittarius rising, which makes Capricorn its second house. And Pluto is making a direct opposition to Mercury in Cancer. And I think that is why we're seeing so much cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs in the news, so many assaults, so much, because it doesn't just rule children, meaning Mercury ruling school-age children. It rules our everyday activities. So let's see, because this Rosetta rules children. Rosetta is being joined by the letting go card. Bridget is being joined by the love card. Archangel Gabriel is being joined by the protection card. And Vanessa is being joined by the goblin. So interesting to me because, you know, again, I don't know if you're watching this just on the timestamp, but I had referred to Roe versus Wade earlier in this video. And, you know, this is a major overturning of a ruling. And obviously many people are going to disagree with this. And when I see the letting go card, I always think of it as let it go from the movie Frozen, right? So here we see Rosetta, Sagittarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I think that this is about moving away from fear on some level. I think this is about children. I think this is about nurturing, teaching, guiding, parenting children. And this is an opportunity for Sagittarius to put reason where there is no reason right now, to put make sense of what doesn't seem to make sense, because I think this is an opportunity for you to look deeper into the idea of love. And I'm going to offer it this way. I don't know how this whole Roe versus Wade thing is going to end up playing out. I don't believe this turning over of this is going to last. I believe that it's an illumination, that we are all a child of God on some level, and it is now our job to protect a bigger experience. You know, sometimes I think about, you know, when you're little, everything is colorful and they make learning fun. And then you get to be about, I don't know, first grade, second grade, and all that just gets wiped out. It just goes to work, and it feels very Saturnian to me. I think that the human wants to live an inspired life. I think the human wants to live with the excitement and the joy and the curiosity of a child. So where I'm going with all of this is that Sagittarius, this is in your 8th house of transformation, of death and rebirth. And as we walk away from fear and we start to see, how am I going to be a perpetrator of love and of acceptance, of allowing all to be whatever they want to be, because we have to look deeper into how we love each other. We assign each other things, and sometimes that does not play to the truth of who we are. And we don't even mean to do it, but it starts in the womb. And now we see Archangel Gabriel talking about communications. She rules Gemini. She's ruled by Mercury in some respects. And there's the protection card. I think that the things that we're seeing and we're experiencing are so that we can truly allow the human at each age, at each stage of their life, to feel as powerful as they can. And now it's time to really determine where we're operating on ego and where we're not. And I think this is where the ultimate transformation comes. When I think about what Sagittarius rules in the way of religion, and you rule justice, you rule judges, you rule higher knowledge and thinking. So to me, this whole spread is about allowing myself to see a bigger version of what fear has to teach me, and to be more aware of how I'm walking around this planet. Even if you don't have children, as you are an energy walking through, you set a tone. And I think that this is where we're all being being called to task to set a tone of love. And love is not about giving something. It's not about here's some money or here's a car. Love is about accepting somebody for who and what they are without trying to manage that or change the way they're thinking. So I think that's what this new moon in Cancer is doing. It is taking your natural ruler, Jupiter, and making a square so that each one of us can dig deeper into our belief system. And are we operating on the beliefs that we really have? Or are we operating on somehow on what we think other people will approve of us? The ego edges God out. And Vanessa is asking us to see where our ego is edging God out, and then to step away from that fear and to trust a bigger picture. Years ago, when Sandy Hook took place, I haven't done it recently, but I went into meditation and I asked Spirit. I was so torn up about that incident. I just can't even begin to explain it to you. And when I went into my meditation, Spirit showed me these little children as they ascended to their natural place in the universe. And they went from little children with little wings to these humongous loving energies that felt like Apollo or like Zeus, or, pick any one of those Greek or Roman gods. And as they ascended, the wings became like Maleficent in whatever her movie was, I can't remember the name. And I just feel like this is so powerful. And it's our job to see this from a new perception. It's not to condone the actions of the imbalanced, but to understand that the soul comes in and every once in a while, if not very often, it chooses in a small form to represent something and give us adults an opportunity to operate differently. All right. Here we go. On to our Capricorns. Whew, feeling so impassionate today. Capricorn, this is going to be in your 7th house. I can't help but go to harmony and cooperation. I can't help it. I'm real resistant to marrying myself to the 7th house being all about marriage. Every astrologer I know defaults to that place. And as we've moved further and further into the human experience, we find less and less people marrying the way they used to. So I think this is going to be very powerful. So let's see, Capricorn, what your first angel is. Daniel, the angel of marriage. The second is Sonia. The third is Mystique, and the final is Archangel Raphael. Daniel talks often about our history in relationships, our history in partnership, because it is that history that we bring into the present. More times than not, the human is not even aware they're doing it. They're just so used to, well, the guy always cheats on me, or the girl always disappears. There's a story that we tell. So let's see what Spirit wants to do to rewrite that story for us. Daniel is being joined by the mystery card. The High Priestess is being joined, or the High Priestess is joining Sonia. Mystique is being joined by the Grail Knight, and Archangel Raphael is being joined by the Risk card. Okay, so Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Saturn rules history, rules old age. And I think that this is now an opportunity for Capricorn to rewrite. This is a choice. The mystery card is free will. To go down this path and to choose to go off this path anywhere I want to go. And I think Spirit is asking, and Daniel is saying, are you bringing your history into your present? Because in the opportunity or the obstacle are very high vibrational cards in the sense of a team helping you rewrite your story. And I want to offer it this way because I personally am a fan of Saturn. I feel like Saturn has been given a little bit of a bum rap and not been allowed to evolve. And so I really perceive him like Coach Boone. Yes, is he a hard ass? Is he going to push me to my limits? Is he going to care much if I'm throwing up on the side of the road while I'm, doing my football drills? No. But does he see the bigger picture? Does Saturn know now what the point of all that hard work is? Yes. And I think this is where Saturn is holding our feet to the fire to actually bow down to our deepest truth, to seek the sacred, and to continue, as Mystique says, to expect miraculous solutions. And here I go back to the idea that we're in the 7th house of partnerships, this Cancer new moon. So Capricorn, if you are indeed somebody who wants a new beginning in your relationships, a new beginning in how you do your contractual relationships, this could very much be a job where you sign a contract with somebody. So I want you to start to really make a choice about who you marry yourself to, and is it aligned to the deeper knowing of who and what you are? And are you bowing down to the sacredness within yourself? Because when you do, Archangel Raphael is offering you a healing because you risked a bigger picture. And I want to offer it this way, because Saturn governs the old rules, the unconscious rules that have inadvertently expired. In my lifetime, I have gone from basically a rotary phone to a push phone to a flip phone to a phone that is my lifeline to everything, meaning the modern day phone. If I were being too Saturnian, I would still be trying to operate my life on a rotary phone. Capricorn, I think this is an opportunity for you to really look at your history. And if you're dragging that history into your present, and if you're operating on that, because if you are, that's your point of attraction. So as you plant the seeds of this in this new moon, to really look at, and now I'm going to go back to the Neptune retrograde. Where are you potentially deceiving yourself, or where are you allowing the waters to appear so murky that you default back to the old story because it's the one you know? And inadvertently, it may not be making you happy, but it's comfortable on some level, because as you risk something bigger, look at this epiphany stretches out far beyond Archangel Raphael. And it offers a healing, not just for you, but for all. And I believe healing is just a balance. It's a way of saying this challenging moment illuminated something to bring me to this amazing moment. And in that way, the next time I walk up to this fork in the road, I'm going to remember that. And it's going to be easier to risk and bet on myself. Okay, let's go on to our Aquariuses. This is going to be in your sixth house of service, meaning your work, your health, your pets. Okay, let's see, Aquarius. What does Spirit want you to know on this Cancer new moon? Oops, pardon me. I'm gonna do a quick sip of my tea. All right, Aquarius, your first angel is Mystique. The second is Athena. The third is Seraphina. And the final is Bridget. Okay, Mystique is being joined by the communications card. Athena is being joined by the serpent. Seraphina is being joined by the king. And Bridget's being joined by the owl. Well, this is very interesting to me because Mystique says to keep charging ahead, but expect miraculous solutions. And then I see the communications card. And I don't know if I think I'm really looking at this in the way of communications, as much as I'm sort of seeing this as a communications representing my everyday activities, all the different types of people I communicate with, the different devices I use. And when I think about the idea of Aquarius ruling innovation, there's something that feels like this has to do with innovation. And where I'm going with this is back to the disruption that we're experiencing so much and so prevalently and so abundantly right now, from gas prices going up to, oh, you name it, it's happening. Because I think this is really about, when I think about communications, I also think that this is how I'm thinking. And maybe this is an opportunity for Aquarius to lovingly assert themselves into realizing that all of this disruption is really about bringing about an awareness. And an awareness that isn't about what's happening out here, but who do I want to be? Ultimately, Gandhi, be the change. That's what I think this is about. Because in the angel's advice is the king and Seraphina saying a happy change is coming to my family. And this is about justice. So I think that this is an opportunity for Aquarius to really sit in this new moon, plant the seeds for their own. What is it about you? What in your sixth house would you like to feel more healthy about? Your mental health is where I'm going with this. Aquarius can rule nervous breakdowns and anxiety. And if for some reason you're feeling very, very anxious right now, and you very much could be, Uranus is making aspects depending upon your natal chart. And as it starts to make that natural square over these next few months with Saturn, your co-ruler, you may have this feeling of free-floating anxiety is the way I want to put it. And what I think it is for Aquarius is an inner knowing that the world is balancing itself. And in order to balance, or at least get closer to balance, we have to sort of walk through imbalance. And that is this shedding of a skin. And you lovingly asserting yourself to understand that this is not an easy process to go through, but ultimately it will be just and fair and bring more happiness to us all. But in the meantime, we're going to constantly have to be looking deeper into the wisdom of the two contrasting experiences. The human by nature does not move when it's comfortable. Let's say you have a job, and obviously this is your sixth house, so I'll use job, and you haven't liked your job, but it pays the bills and it pays a little bit more than the bills. And while you're giving up your life 5 days a week, maybe more, you're thinking, well, at least it's doing this. I think this is an opportunity for you to keep charging ahead in the way you live your everyday life, becoming more and more innovative and authentic to who and what you want to experience. And while it may be a little choppy over the next few months, and I say that because the Neptune retrograde is going to make us all feel like we're swimming without goggles on, or that we are sort of knee deep in it, and it's not as easy to move when we feel so vulnerable to the tides. And I think for my Aquariuses, this comes in the form of feeling a bit anxious and a bit unsure and a bit I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you're feeling anxious, then tuck back in and ask yourself if your thoughts and your actions are aligned to what truly makes you happy. And if you cannot determine that, then just allow yourself a pause. Take a nap, take a walk, take a moment to just let everything decompress, and something will come through. Because if you try to push too hard, I feel like you're going to constantly be going back and forth. And because Aquarius rules humanity, because Aquarius rules the collective, and while I don't always think of Aquarius as a really emotional sign, this is a very emotional moon. The new moon in Cancer is extremely emotional, and it's rubbing up against Jupiter, which is rubbing up against all of our beliefs. And so I think that you may, spend the next few days after this new moon feeling slightly confused and not knowing if your thoughts and your actions are moving you where you want to go or not, but just let yourself kind of take a moment and let the universe bring in the next inspired action, because mystique is promising movement. If you keep charging ahead, coming out of the dark and into the light. And part of that light isn't just you shining your light, but allowing the world around you to contribute to your balance. Okay, let's go on to our Pisces rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. This is going to be your 5th house. Cancer is your 5th house. That's the house of self-expression, the house of fun and hobbies and children. And I say children, a little bit older children, conception of children. We see children show up in Gemini, and we see them show up in Leo. So let's look and see. What does Cancer 5th house have to say for you, Pisces? What does this new moon, what seeds does Spirit want to help you plant? As your ruling planet goes retrograde and your ancient ruler has a very challenging conversation with this new moon. Again, I think the theme is for this new moon is where am I dragging beliefs of yesteryear into today or tomorrow? Astera says to reach for the stars with your dreams and desires. Akasha is the teacher. We have Archangel Gabriel talking about communications, and we have Rochelle talking about your heart. I love it. Okay, Astera is being joined by the protection card. Akasha is being joined by the love card. Archangel Gabriel is being joined by the swan. And Rochelle is being joined by the High Priestess. I believe that Pisces is one of the most spiritual signs. You know, it gets a little bit of a bad rap for escapism in some level, you know, wanting to spirits, and then there are spirits, but I want to offer it this way. I feel like in the 5th house, this Cancer new moon is giving you an opportunity to really start to express yourself and enjoy yourself in new ways. And I feel as if this is kind of an important thing to represent, to really plant those seeds so that you are representing the balance, not just the heaviness of the burden of life. Because the protection card is an 11. 38 reduces down to an 11 as you stay aligned to the truth of your soul and you continue to reach to spirit. You actually learn more about love. And I want to offer it this way, because I don't think you just learn about love. I think you also teach about love, because you're transforming the way that you're thinking. And I want to offer it this way because I see the swan as an intuitive energy, but also is going from the ugly duckling to the swan. And Archangel Gabriel is talking about my insecurities of how I'm thinking. And when we're thinking too much, we are inadvertently looking around ourselves and trying to figure out from the chess pieces in front of us what we can do. We never consider all the games and the chess pieces that are not on the table. So what does Spirit want you to do? Go into your intuition and your heart. The answers will ultimately lie there for you. Pisces, this is a time for you to allow yourself to swim through the waters in a way where the water becomes the propeller. You know, it guides you along versus trying to swim upstream against the tide. I also want to offer that as Neptune goes retrograde, the potential of you discovering information that feels initially distasteful or depressing, I want to use the word depressing, or defeating. This is part of the balance. So I want you to really think of yourself as, all right, I know this challenge is going on outside of me, or maybe it's even going on inside of me. Maybe I'm having to address a deception about how I feel loved. And I want to offer it this way, because sometimes we think the deception is not really from another person, but from ourselves. I don't need much. I don't need much. I'll just shave off this want or this desire to fit into this small hole or this small space. And I think it's time to blow that up. And I don't mean it in a way of having to be disruptive or argumentative, but rather really trusting this. As you honor and follow the guidance of your heart, prosperity is coming to you. And so are inspired actions. So is a deeper sense of your intuition, your connection to the truth of who you are and your soul's intention for this lifetime. So I think this is a very, very powerful new moon. Again, it feels like a very tense new moon because it's digging in. It's asking me where my beliefs are tripping up my experience, where my beliefs, while they may have been true at one point, are they still true, or am I bringing them, the beliefs that don't serve me, into this present moment, which is then setting the ceilings for my moments ahead? So I think this is super powerful. And again, I want to sort of go back to the beginning of the video where I talked about Venus sextiling Jupiter. So while we have the square to the moon, we have Venus standing in a longer energy, making the sextile. So the moon is going to be gone within a few hours. That new moon is okay, let me back up. The effects of the new moon will last, but the intensity of the new moon will pass. We feel the new moon on 3 days on either side of the moon. So then we allow Venus's energy, my self-worth, my ability to make money, my beauty, my art. Venus rules art and beauty, and putting this forward and allowing that sextile to sort of be the more dominant energy of how I process my planting of new seeds during this moon. Because as you reach for the stars with your dreams and desires and focus on them, that focus will bring a protection. And that protection will come in the form of feeling loved and being able to actually share that love with other people, because you're willing to transform your thoughts. And the transformation doesn't come because you've changed the thought. It's more of an awareness of how dominant that thought is. And as it becomes aware, then you realize going into my heart is how I will truly manifest my soul's desires. Okay, let's go on to our Aries, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. This is going to be in your 4th house. That's the normal house. I shouldn't say the normal house. I should say well, maybe it is the normal house. It is the natural house of Cancer. That's a better way to put it. And Jupiter's currently transiting your house. So this is really going to give you an opportunity to look and see how you're nurturing yourself and your beliefs about yourself. I know it's not in your 1st house, but the 1st house and the 4th house feel intricately connected. While they create a natural square, the house of home is where the individual develops their sense of self. And while the 1st house is where we come in, I think that how do you not connect the two, right? Okay, Aries, Seraphina is saying a happy change is coming to your family. Ariel is giving you new experiences on an intuitive level. Rosetta is talking about parenting and guiding children. And Desiree is asking us to look deeper into conditions. Now, as I recall, Mars is making a square to Pluto during this new moon. So this is important to know because Mars is still transiting through, as I believe it's still in Aries. It's your natural ruler. That's two fire signs in one place. Seraphina is being joined by the burden card. Ariel is being joined by the wealth card. Rosetta is being joined by the truth card. And Desiree is being joined by the raven. Okay. So the first thing I want to say is, being ruled by Mars, you just want to go, 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 go. And sometimes taking that action too quickly is just a big do-over. So I want to offer this idea because we are seeing, as I recall, Mars is squaring Pluto, but it is making a favorable aspect, a sextile to Saturn retrograde. So I think this is an opportunity for our Mars-ruled people to take this Cancerian new moon and to allow ourselves, maybe, rather than feeling like our fire is being extinguished, we can think of it as an opportunity for us to really decide if we want to warm the waters or if we're going to straight up make them come to a boil. Because Seraphina talks about a happy change to our family, and then there's the burden card. And the interesting thing about this combination for me is that I kind of get a feeling that it's an anxiousness from Mars that wants to see the results. I want to see the results. I want to see the results. And now we talk about the idea that Mars and Jupiter have been hanging out in Aries for a little while now, really talking about what do I believe? And I want to expand myself and I want to feel more wealth and more bounty. And on some level, this new moon being in your fourth house may be asking you to slow your roll down, that it's not just you pushing yourself forward, but that the universe is aligning in ways to support your endeavor. So this is about, I believe, Mars being in a sextile with Saturn is learning how the baton pass happens. We have this inspired idea, we start to take action, and then we have to sit back and allow the universe to move the other components into place, which then will bring in an inspired action. So this may be creating a bit of a burden because Aries is ready to move on with it. But soon, I believe Aries will see the wealth and the bounty that they get as they wait for that inspired action, because that inspired action is so much more. It offers more reward. It offers a broader way of thinking. And we talked about the idea that the new moon is squaring Jupiter. And that's my beliefs. And what if for some reason right now, Aries is like, I'm not expanding fast enough. I'm not expanding fast enough. And what if this is really about spirit teaching you something about your deeper truth? Sometimes Aries wants to move on its first inspiration. And if it gives itself an opportunity, the piggybacking inspiration can expand and supersede and bring much more wealth than the initial idea. So here we go in the final position. Desiree is saying conditions aren't favorable, to look deeper on some level into what the conditions are. And that might be reflected in this burden here and in how you're perceiving it. Well, if this would just happen, then I would be able to be happy. And what if the opportunity for Aries right now, because we have a square between the new moon and Jupiter in your belief system, what if your happiness is not dependent upon outside circumstances, but rather your permission to give yourself your perception through those outside circumstances, which then create magic and get you to understand that the baton pass is the way to be the most powerful and the most peaceful warrior. I feel as if that Aries might be feeling a little bit frustrated. You know, new moons, it's dark. We're just planting that seed. It's going to be months and months until that seed has had a chance to grow and turn into a fruit or a vegetable that will sustain us. So we keep our eye on the prize of harmonious wealth, and we keep our connection to spirit. Thank you for giving me evidence. This is the other thing I want to say. As you walk through these next few months, Aries, if you find yourself frustrated with the timing of things, then play a little game with spirit. Spirit, I'd like to see a blue balloon. If I'm aligned to my intentions, I'd like to see a duck fly overhead. Anything that you can wrap your belief system around, spirit will be able to support and give you a sign for. So don't be afraid of how big the sign is. Just be sure you're aligned to believing it can come true. It's easy to believe you'll find a penny. It's hard to believe you'll find $1 million. So somewhere in between, because I believe right now there are things going on outside that are aligning for you to feel the magic and the timing to move forward. All right, let's go on to our Tauruses, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. This new moon is going to be happening in your third house. I said Taurus, didn't I? I hope so. So often I'm in like 12 different places in my brain. And I think that it's like I'm getting older and I'm not focusing, but you know, I don't think I ever focused well. I think it's the hotel. I can see people moving. I can hear motorcycles, all sorts of things going on. All right, Taurus, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Archangel Michael. The second is Bridget. The third is Desiree. And the final is Daniel. So This is Cancer is your third house. This would be your network of friends. Archangel Michael is being joined by the love card, just flew out. Bridget is being joined by the Baird. Desiree is being joined by the wealth card. And Daniel's being joined by the truth card. Okay, so the main theme for me for this new moon in Cancer is the square to Jupiter. It is creating a very tense conversation between what I've experienced and what I believe about myself and what can potentially be new and newness planted in the way of nurturing myself. All right, Taurus, this is all about love. And I'm not even going to make it about intimate love. I'm going to make it about all sorts of love. And do you have the courage to feel love? Do you have the courage to look where you're participating, looking deeper into your story that you tell over and over again? I am in Taurus moon. It's a fixed sign. It's a stubborn bull. And I think I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, I've got this story that I got when I was a very young little girl. Love, you gotta go. Love, you gotta go. So basically, I don't feel loved because people are always leaving to go do something more fun. They're not inviting me with them. This is something that's been imprinted upon my Taurus moon. So do I have the courage to start to rewrite my story about love? Do I have the courage to say that I keep telling the story so I'm participating within my own experience? Because Desiree is saying conditions are favorable because this wealth card is something that doesn't really come easily. And I say it this way because Taurus, you know, you're so sensitive, really. You are ruled by Venus. Venus rules our self-worth. Where does our self-worth come from? It really comes from Cancer. It comes from our home experience and how we were nurtured in the beginning of this physical experience and the point of attraction we brought in. So now, as you're willing to really realize, Daniel is the angel of marriage and there's the truth card. Does Taurus have the ability to be courageous in love and start to write a new story? Do you believe that your beliefs can be renovated? Do you believe that if you believed something when you were 15, 17, 25, 35, 45, whatever your age is, does it have to be true right now? Or have you evolved past it? Or have you learned how to integrate it to support you? My father's been dead for over 10 years. He loved me and he left. And I can always say, love, you gotta go. Am I gonna blame others for that point of attraction I have? Probably a little bit. But when I have the wherewithal to see that I'm telling the same story, then what I can do is engage spirit to change, help me change the conditions so that I do feel the wealth of harmony, the wealth of love, the wealth of also understanding a certain appetite that I have. Because Taurus, you know, sometimes I think that Taurus inadvertently lumps everything into one big bowl. And if you really looked in the bowl and you saw that there was things that you didn't really like, you would want to remove those. And so if indeed somehow things that weren't really aligned to you were removed or you removed them yourself, does that mean you're not loved? Or does it mean you're making space for more authentic experiences in love? Because that's what this new moon has to offer. And by the time this 6 months is done, you could potentially be in a relationship and feel yourself seen for the first time ever. Wouldn't that be lovely? And even if it's not an intimate relationship, although this Cancer on the chart of the day, it's in the 7th house. And I think that's really powerful because it is the house of marriage, the house of partnership, the house of cooperation, harmony, diplomacy, and compassion. Also, Pisces is also compassion. But anyway, so that's where I'm going with this. Taurus, when you're walking through this next few months, when you're planting the seeds on this new moon, really being able to determine how your emotional body is processing the new version of your story. That was then, and this is now. That might have been true then, but I'm using that as the stepping stone to move over here. Thank you, Spirit, for giving me experiences so that I can anchor into my truth rather than stay in my story. Okay, let's go on to our final sign, Gemini. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. This new moon for you is in your second house, planting seeds for new abundance, financial abundance. We like that idea. Let's see. Oops. Excuse me, drop the cards. Thank you. Cool. All right. All right, my Geminis. Our first angel is Yvonne. The second is Shanti. The third is Oceana. And the final is Desiree. Yvonne is always about vulnerability for me. And the thing about vulnerability is it refers or infers a lack of control. It infers somebody else having the ability to hurt me or to influence me in a way that makes me unsure. And yet at the same time, without the energy of vulnerability, I don't know if we truly feel loved. So let's see what's going on for Gemini. Oh, we got the dog. Look at that. Vulnerability and love and loyalty. Shanti, the angel of peace, is being joined by the disruption card. Oceana is being joined by the love card again. And Desiree is being joined by the owl. That's the second time that that combination is coming in the final position. So let me offer this. Gemini, are you being loyal to yourself? Are you working so hard for other people? Are you focused on something else? Because I think it's time for you to be vulnerable to your own wants and desires, to be sincere about them and to be loyal to them. Because if there is some disruption, that disruption is actually being offered to you to bring in more peace. Because in the angel's advice is Oceana asking Gemini to really get out of their mercurial brain and start to get into their soul's energy and to allow themselves to swim up through those waters into a place where they feel valued, they feel loved, they feel appreciated, and they feel wanted. That's the way I want to put it. Because if indeed, for some reason, you're getting to a place where your focus is on what has been depleting to you, where you feel drained, where you feel like I work so hard for my money and nobody appreciates it. And the only time they bring anything up is when I don't perform, and I perform 90% of the time. There's something about this new moon and the idea that Neptune is going retrograde on that same day. It's a slow moving planet. Feeling Neptune's stationing period is probably something we've been walking through. But on that very day, with the idea that Jupiter is making a square to the new moon, it feels like it's time for us all to sort of dig deeper into a spiritual dynamic of the disruptions in our lives. And if for some reason Gemini has been working dutifully towards what is expected of them, now is a time to decipher if that's really working for you. And I believe that this is about being loyal to yourself and vulnerable to that idea. So let me put it this way. If for some reason these are all true for you, then this new moon is not about taking action. It's about planting the seeds so that you could emotionally align to the self-care required in order to change the outside experience. And that will probably come in a bit of a disruptive way, because the disruption could very well be that you've been following your head and not your heart. And now, as you start to step into your heart, you will see, and this is not about judging yourself, but you will see, oh, I get it now. It has not been favorable because I've been in a wobble. Maybe it's a wobble between your wallet and your heart. How will I sustain myself? Or you're thinking, I've been in this job for so long, technology is changing. Will other people find my service, my talents palatable? All that mercurial noise going on in your head is keeping you from being vulnerable to the deeper truth of what you want to experience. And I feel like this opportunity to plant the seeds in the house of self-nurturing And I say self-nurturing because if we don't nurture ourselves, we really aren't nurturing other people. We're just being of service to them in a way that ultimately creates imbalance. So when I take care of me, then I am taking care of you. And I don't think that this is about, at this time, is about trying to talk it out with other humans. I think for Gemini, this is really about looking at that square between the new moon and Jupiter and saying, what do I believe? Because if you believe, if I don't work hard for those people over there or for that situation, I'm going to get thrown out like yesterday's trash. That's not a good platform for feeling loyal to yourself and feeling loved. So this is where you get to sit back a minute and then engage your team. Engage your team to show you how to stand in alignment with your own desires and still feel purposeful and valued in the outside world. Okay, that's going to be it for today. I will be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Pacific to go over some of the other transits and to do our Sunday morning live. But this is for our new moon, and this moon is going to have influence over the next 6 months. It's going to commingle its energies with Neptune and with Saturn and Uranus not Uranus. I didn't mean Uranus. I meant Saturn retrograde. I don't want to bring Uranus into anything. Okay. Let me just back this up. Overall, I think this Cancer new moon is seeing the value of self-care, self-nurturing. And as we do that, we're more able to nurture others. I think that the square between Jupiter and the new moon is having me reevaluate my beliefs, and if my beliefs are current and if they are aligned to what's happening today, or they're based on something different. And then I want to bring in the idea that Mars and Saturn are in a sextile that's giving me an opportunity to decide how I want to take action moving forward in a methodical and thinking long term versus just to kind of stop whatever the pain is for now. I hope that made sense. I got a little distracted. There's somebody screaming and crying outside. All right, guys, I'll be back tomorrow morning. I hope you'll join me at 11 a.m. Pacific time. Again, my name is Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, intuitive astrologer, Reiki master, and empowerment coach. And if you'd like to book a reading with me, my information is below in the description.